Wolff upset with Mercedes' performance. It's just not good enough. A damning verdict followed Mercedes' performance in qualifying for the French Grand Prix. There was a lot of hype surrounding the Silver Arrows coming into the French Grand Prix amid their recent improvements. Some were even tipping Lewis Hamilton and George Russell to challenge for the race win. However, things are not going according to plan, as Red Bull and Ferrari once again led the pack, with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell finishing P4 and P6 respectively. Welcome to F1 Freaks. We urge you to stick around to know more. With upgrades made to the car and the circuit Paul Ricard being one of the smoothest tracks on the F1 calendar, many expected the Silver Arrows to be challenging for the pole position during the qualifying stage and possibly score the win on Sunday. The team had a shaky start, having failed to dip under the 1 minute 33 mark in Q1. It looked at one point as if the Mercedes duo might have been at risk of elimination from Q2. After switching to a brand new set of soft tyres, Mercedes found some pace as the session wore on, with Lewis Hamilton ultimately qualifying 4th and George Russell 6th. Speaking to Sky Sports on Saturday, Wolff said that once the new tyres came on, they were going to end up being the third force on the grid. But overall, the performance was not good enough, according to the Mercedes boss. I think we knew that once we got the new tyres on and we were driving the car in anger a little bit, that we were going to be there, third or fourth like we've been all season, Wolff told Sky Sports F1. Mercedes scraped through to make it to Q3. With a huge 9/10 of a second gap to pole winner Charles Leclerc, it is evidence of just how far behind their rivals Mercedes remain. Toto Wolff showed his unhappiness with the team's performance by saying, "It's just not good enough." It was said to Wolff that Mercedes' race weekend had been messy so far, and they mentioned that they had tested different rear wings on the W13s during FP3. The Mercedes boss responded by saying that they were freestyling a bit as things weren't going according to plan. You can see when you're a little bit on the back foot. Your expectations are on a certain level for the race weekend and it doesn't come together, a kind of freestyling starts. And with us, it was mainly experimenting with rear wing levels and also tyre temperatures, but at the end, the overall package is just not quick enough and can see that, said Wolff. Mercedes had been hoping that by this point of the season, they would be able to challenge for their first win of the year, but that seems as far off now as it did in Bahrain. "We were slowly but surely working our way back to the front runners," Wolff commented. "There were good signs at Silverstone. Then we went to Austria, at a track where we were normally not competitive at all, and we could clearly see the signs why we were not competitive. But we were close. It's a 1-minute circuit, and we were 3/10 off, which was acceptable," he continued. "Then we brought quite a nice upgrade package to Paul Ricard. The track is smooth, off we go, let's hunt them down." Well, Paul Ricard has been tough for them so far. During the interview, a frustrated Wolff had this to say about the team's performance and the confusion in the Mercedes camp. "And no performance, like no performance, and we can't figure it out. We can't figure out what went wrong," he said. Mercedes seemed unsure of their ideal setup for the weekend as recently as FP3, when the Silver Arrows were experimenting with different wing settings. Wolff acknowledged that his team had done some tinkering. "We experimented with rear wings, from almost the biggest we have, which Lewis described as dragging a parachute behind him this morning, to a smaller version, which makes us lose too much speed in the corners. Then we're experimenting with tyre temperatures, and you can see the gap to Verstappen. If you told me we would end up between 7/10 and 1.1 seconds off, that's a bit of a slap in the face. What we're seeing is that within one session, we go from totally uncompetitive in the first sector to the second run in Q3, where we were the best in Sector 1. I wouldn't know whether it's the aero map per se," he added. "Clearly there's something happening, whether it's wind affected or tyre dependent, that is just not working on our car. The car is on edge." Although Wolff cut a frustrated figure after the race, he still shares some optimism for the race. "Between hero and zero, there's just a super fine margin that we don't seem to understand," he said. "Nevertheless, we'll work hard overnight and try to be in a better position tomorrow in the race." Wolff also reserved praise for Hamilton, whose performance he said transcended the capabilities of the W13. He agreed with Hamilton's suggestion that the qualifying session had been immense, while he did point out that the British driver could have been P5 if not for Carlos Sainz's grid penalty. The Mercedes boss claimed that Hamilton did a good job on the day. "Yeah, great job. He probably has extracted more than the car can at the moment," said Wolff of the 7-time world champion. While pleased with his own qualifying performance, Hamilton feels Mercedes, armed with more updates, has lost ground to their main rivals this weekend. "I was really happy with my lap at the end. It was a beautiful lap. It was just a second off," Hamilton told media including RacingNews365.com. "For whatever reason, we seem to be a lot further off this weekend, but the whole pack is. The two top teams are just in their own league, really. Considering I missed FP1, which definitely does put you on the back foot, I'm really happy with the progress I made. Everybody back at the factory is working really hard with us to make progress. We came in today and we didn't actually... I think we took a step back today. But going into qualifying, we managed to turn it around." Hamilton then explained how he is trying to learn as many lessons as possible from this year's Mercedes to ensure that his 2023 Challenger is up to scratch. "It's not that it's disheartening, it's just you do a lap and then they're like, you're 1.7 off," he continued. "Then you do a really good lap and you're 1.1 seconds off and you're like, wow, there's nothing I can do in my power to change that." It seems Hamilton is already switching his focus to next year when he said, "Where I'm focused on, and what I already said at the beginning of the year, is just trying to understand this car more. I'm really working closely with the team to say, these are the bits I want from this car and the bits I don't want from this car on next year's car. I'm trying to steer that so at least, hopefully, later on, this year we get somewhere better, but next year's car is the one we can fight with." Meanwhile, Russell felt he could have done better after being pipped to 5th place by friend and McLaren's rival Lando Norris. "As a team, we're probably a little further away than we would have hoped, would have expected," said the young Brit. "Personally, I had a good start to Q3 and felt comfortable. But I made a mistake on my last lap. At the end of the day, I think the gap is more concerning than the finishing order. We sense there might be more woes waiting for Mercedes on Sunday. With the team still undecided and experimenting, all that's left is to hope they have it figured out before then." Who are we kidding? Mercedes probably won't figure it out this season. Or should we be expecting a surprise? Tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the notifications to get more fresh and informative F1 updates like this.